What is going on, all you awesome superhero aficionados? This is the Heroes and Mutants podcast, the number one source of superhero talk. I'm Nick with my co-hosts Eric and Ruben. Got a big day planned ahead of you guys, and planned out for you guys. But before we get started, I know because I have this reputation, so I gotta keep adding more and more to my collection. But as you guys know, I'm the best number one source of superhero shirts, so I had to add another one to the collection. This
I
is, in
saw
case you guys didn't
that.
know, this is Green Arrow. You can actually see the arrow pointed here. So, the funny thing about this is I actually had to wait a couple months because I wasn't sure I didn't have this sent to my apartment, shipped to my apartment because I was supposed to be moving out. So I had it sent over to my parents in West Covina. I live in NorCal, so I had to send it down in Southern California. So the funny thing was I was like ended up, and I think this is waiting at my parents' house since July. So I finally went back last week and was like, oh, I can't wait and look forward to getting my Green Arrow suit
Yeah.
and his shirt, jacket, and then the joggers. Those like a big thing. So it's from Super X. Make sure you guys check it out. They
Yeah.
got if you guys are into workout stuff, but you guys don't have proper superhero stuff to wear, and you guys got to show off all of the gains and let people know, like, hey, this is the spirit of Captain America. This is the spirit of
Yeah.
Batman. Make sure you guys check it out. Super X on Instagram. Really
Super
great
X.
superhero gear for all of your fitness needs. So, with all that being said, let's get started. I think this is the thing that I wasn't exactly sure that this would happen, but just given the concept of the multiverse and how many actors from their characters' respective worlds, realities reprise the roles, it was a given, so it wasn't too shocking. But Hugh Jackman is back as Wolverine in Deadpool 3. Hopefully now we'll be able to see him in the classic yellow and blue suit with the cowl. But as awesome as this is, are you guys getting a little fatigued by this, especially since it's unique in Wolverine's case, as Logan has to be one of the most perfect ending slash send offs of any comic book character.
Oh
And it
man.
feels like it's a little dampened by, and it feels, does it feel a little bit dampened by Jackman coming back again? I wanted to take Eric's critique and analyst of this first because he's a bit like you say that Logan is like your top three comic book film of all
It
time.
is the
So
best.
what
The
do you make?
best comic book film of
Okay,
all
the best. I'm sorry.
time.
So
Dude,
what do you take about this coming back?
it's it's bittersweet in the sense that okay, Hugh Jackman as Wolverine is gonna be iconic, right? I was kind of looking forward to see who would take that mantle on. Just because I mentioned it before, technically Hugh Jackman, yes, in our mind it's Wolverine, but he's not a very accurate representation of Wolverine in the comic books. And like
Yeah,
how tall he is and everything like it's a little different from the comic books, but in the end, like I grew up with those movies, right? All the X-Men movies and the Wolverine movies, so having him come back is exciting. And it's funny because the Deadpool movies, Deadpool 1 and 2, they've been teasing Wolverine really the whole time, and making fun of
very
it, and
beginning.
how the original appearance of Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool and that X-Men Origins movie, like they keep touching on that. So I think it's pretty funny that they're bringing him back, but it's also, I mean, it's cool because in the comic books, like for those that don't know, we do have an old man Logan in the comic books that could
Yep.
fit very well into like this universe that we're seeing right now in the MCU. So like I think it started with like the Ultimates universe, right? You don't have just Wolverine, you have Old Man Logan too fighting alongside the new Avengers. And I think it's really cool to see that play out on the big screen. And it can be somewhat comic book accurate where they just have a Logan from a different timeline who's now thrown into this timeline and working through it. So it works. It's not it's not like they're just trying to, obviously they're playing on nostalgia, but it's not like they're forcing this. It to me it doesn't feel forced. I'll say that. Yes, Logan had like a awesome ending and it was the perfect send off to that character.
Mm.
But obviously when you talk about like Days of Future Past and like all the changes that X-Men did to the timeline, then you have Deadpool 2 where he's doing all kinds of crazy stuff with Cable in the timeline. Like there's really the possibility for anything at this point where they somehow end up in our MCU universe. I think it's actually pretty funny. Like this is gonna be. I hope it's somewhat of a like a buddy cop Deadpool Wolverine thing where they're just traveling through time trying to save someone or do something similar to what happened in Deadpool 2. But maybe this is an opportunity to see Deadpool and Wolverine jump into like other MCU like other Marvel properties. Like, who knows? Like, maybe they can jump into like some of the other Spider-Man movies and stuff like that. Like, it'll be. I think it opens the door of possibilities to do a lot more with these crazy characters, especially because in the comic books, Deadpool and Wolverine do have like they're like frenemies, right? Like they work together often. Most of the time, Deadpool just wants to be with Wolverine, and Wolverine just wants him to get away. But they somehow end up working together a lot of times, and so I'm excited for it. I do think it's weird that it was announced by Ryan Reynolds on his YouTube channel and his social media, and not Marvel. I actually heard a rumor where someone said that this is the way of Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman to try to force Marvel's hand to include Wolverine in the MCU, or Hugh Jackman's Wolverine. I think that'd be really cool if they're actually trying to pull this off right now. Just because everyone's excited for it. I haven't seen a lot of backlash on it just yet.
Yeah.
But I mean, and Hugh Jackman still has a lot of years in him, and he can play Old Man Logan like for easily like a few more decades, honestly. Just
Yeah.
because in the
See,
comic
he
books,
was
he goes into like old man Logan. Like he's there for a while. So yeah, I'm bittersweet. I hope it doesn't take away from what Logan was, that movie, just because it was done so perfectly in my eyes. But at the same time, I'm excited to see him back. I think it's cool.
What do you think, Ruben?
Yeah, I'm excited for it. I guess I'm not disappointed or anything like that. I mean, we've been wanting to see the X-Men, the mutants be introduced into the MCU. So it's like we know Deadpool's already gonna be in the MCU. So it's like I'm excited for it all together. We got Deadpool coming to the MCU. Dad and Wolverine with Hugh Jackman. Like I'm all for it because, like Eric said, we saw the X-Men growing up as kids, teenagers. So we know those movies. That's our Wolverine.
Hmm.
Besides the animated series, but freaking yeah, Hugh Jackman will be a cool fit. And then Ryan Reynolds, he did it the Ryan Reynolds way, where
Yeah.
of course, like, you know what, forget Marvel. Like I would do it on my personal page, and they're gonna follow my lead from there on out. And so it's such a Deadpool thing to do too, So it's like, but he did it in his classic, Ryan Reynolds form.
Yep.
So I thought that was a pretty cool announcement. And then the way they just played it off so like simple, like he's at Ryan's house or something, right? And then he
Hmm.
just walks by, goes up the
He's like
stairs.
in the background. It's like, yeah, okay, we can do this. Like
Yeah,
all
okay, like
nonchalantly, like
I'm with it. Like, all right, you need me, I'm there, And it's cool because Ryan Reynolds had always joked around with like, even in the beginning of his first film, like finally, I had to like do this and that. I had to do, go through hoops and ladders trying to, convince Hugh Jackman to give me my own little freaking series, my own solo film finally. And I thought it plays the part, So Deadpool 3 with Hugh Jackman, I think it'll, like you said, Eric, I think it'll be like a cool, like buddy dynamic kind of
Yeah.
thing, Because like you're not wrong when you say like Deadpool just wants to stick around with Wolverine, be a pain in his butt, and then Wolverine's like, not. He doesn't want anything to do with it. So
Yep.
I think it's gonna be something like that where they're gonna be colliding, but it's gonna be like obviously comedy because it's Ryan Reynolds and
Yeah.
Deadpool. So I don't know what they're gonna do, the storyline they'll do with it, but I'm just excited for it. Even
Yeah.
if it's not even like a big, a lot of screen time for Hugh, I'm still all for it to see him in it.
Yeah.
and I think that's the thing with me. Like I said, it in the very beginning, I think when Logan came out, especially he reiterated multiple times, like this is going to be the final curtain call for me. This is going to be the end. He had talked about he would be. That was the only time where he had said, okay, like I would be okay to reprise this role as long as it was with Deadpool or with Ryan Reynolds. But then right around the time Logan, this is right before Logan came out, and then he changed his stance on it, saying this is the perfect setup for this character. I don't want to ruin what we did and just have it be that that's just the ending for this character and for my portrayal of him. Granted, just given everything, like, we talked about the multiverse and we've seen Andrew Garfield, we've seen Tobey Maguire, and then Patrick Stewart came back. I think with
Yeah.
everything with that, we figured at some point, and then we knew that Secret Wars is just on the horizon too. We figured, I thought like that would be the point, like where he would come back. I did not expect him to be in Deadpool 3, but just given like this is what the fans want to see. This is playing off of that whole bringing Daredevil back to the MCU. This is like that whole spiel. So I'm all for it, and it'll give them a chance to do something that's a little bit. You had talked about, even though in the very beginning, during like the first X-Men, during like that late '90s, early 2000s, there was not that care and that consideration of the source material. Like the
Mhm.
whole thing was like Brian Singer had said, "Oh no costumes, no costumes in the comics because they don't work." Now we've seen 20 years later, of course they work.
Yeah.
So I would like to see. I think the thing would be, I would like to see him in that classic yellow and blue, or that orange and tan suit, just something like that. Like
Yeah.
I think that was the thing when I started getting into source material. I'm like, yeah, Hugh Jackman's a really good looking guy, but I want to see him as Wolverine. I want to see, and we always had the thing with like the I think they had talked about the joke with like his attire was like the white beaters and the muscle shirts and
Yeah.
the jeans. I like that better than the leather suits that they wore as like X-Men suits.
Yeah.
But I get the sense with you. I'm more like, I'm excited. The same with you, Eric. But I do feel it's a little bit bittersweet just because that was a perfect send up for this character in Logan, and I just feel like that takes the weight away from what that movie accomplished and the stakes that was at play with it. Now we live in that era where, like we had talked about with comic books, where no character is really dead. I mean, we saw that with Bucky, where 60 years later he came back as a Winter Soldier. We saw that with Jason Todd. He came back 16 years later as a Red Hood. Now it's fully transitioned over to the cinematic universe where nobody stays dead, no matter if it's a different reality or different universe, multiverse, whatever it is.
Yeah.
But
And
I'm excited.
I was gonna say I don't like that precedent that it's setting.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
probably a better send off for a character was Tony Stark, right? In Endgame. But now with something like this happening, and I think he even tweeted something also, Robert Downey Jr., where it was like maybe he was just being like tongue in cheek funny, but it's like, oh, it looks like these characters can come back from the dead. And it's like, oh man,
Yeah.
that sucks.
And
Like
I remember
because it's
this
such
is
a good send off, right? And same with
exactly.
Steve Rogers, right? It was a good send off. He went until his old age. He's gone, and he should be gone, right? We have a new Captain America already. Like, and then we had Riri Williams coming in, Ironheart, to kind of replace what Iron Man left behind, and even Spider Man to a certain extent. Like, we, I think it's important to kind of leave people gone in a
Exactly.
sense, because then you just start recycling. And like, I don't want to see ever like a hard reboot of the MCU like we've seen in like so many comic books, especially in DC Comics. You've seen them
Yeah,
do hard reboots before, and it's like,
yeah,
man, I don't
exactly.
want because when something like that happens, I think people are just gonna check out at that point.
For
Exactly.
sure.
Yeah, and that's been one of the biggest criticisms against like that. DC is, and I even think it's actually pretty funny you mentioned that because my final paper I did for college, we had to talk about, we had to do some kind of like final paper, and the thing that we could do it at any topic. My thing was DC rebooting their timeline. I did the research like every 5 years. This was 2015, and this was obviously they had just done the New 52. The New 52 was going on from that point, but then they were going to reboot again with Convergence and then Rebirth after that. And then we had saw like Future State. So that's like, you're talking about like four or five different continuities within the past 10 years alone for DC. And that's
Yeah.
something that is like a very, it's a lot of what DC is notoriously known for now. DC Comics I'm talking about. So I just feel, and especially, I think this is where this works out, is that this is not a character who's been introduced before. So it's not like we're having to bring back Robert Downey Jr. from the dead, or we're going to have to find some way for Steve Rogers to be a young man again. So it works in that sense. It's just given that Logan, like we talked about, Logan was a perfect send off, perfect ending for any character. Maybe just with the exception of Tony Stark, obviously.
Yeah.
But I just don't want that to be like this thing where like nostalgia will determine that this just, a lot of this just keeps getting rehashed and redone and recycled. As much as I'm excited and all for it, I would still like that conclusion, and that, because then that means that sacrifice and that story that we had gone through, like all that arc and all that time and all that energy and that we had spent on it, that it was just completely done, as opposed to just having to reboot and rehash. So
Yeah.
that's just my only thing.
It makes it mean something in essence.
Exactly.
And like,
It has a
yeah,
significance.
and
an
and
impact.
I'm all for like actors reprising their roles and maybe like doing like a period piece like from the past, like Black Widow, right? Like not the greatest movie, but they didn't just bring her back from the dead. They're like, hey, this is what
Mhm.
was happening during this time, and this is what she did. And I thought it was really cool that they did that. So like if they
Yeah,
do something like that again with like
yeah,
Iron
that
Man or
would
even
make sense
Steve
actually.
Rogers, yeah, that makes sense. Okay, this is where this falls in the timeline. That's cool. But I don't, man, I don't know. We'll
I know what
see.
you mean.
We'll see where it goes.
Yeah, exactly. And moving on from that, the other big thing that we need to talk about that I'm super excited for is the final trailer for Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. Definitely one of the most emotional but uplifting comic book movie trailers I've seen. And we got confirmation that Namor will be a mutant, like in the comics. The excitement, anticipation, and eagerness to see this movie is off the charts for me. Not just because of the passing of Chadwick Boseman, but the live-action debut of Namor and all the lore and mythology his presence will bring to the MCU. So given that, this film definitely, do you guys feel that this film definitely has a chance to be one of the MCU's most unique standout films? Do you guys agree with that?
I think this film is gonna pass Endgame at the box office.
Damn.
I really do.
Definitely.
That's what I'm saying. That's my prediction. It's like just seeing the trailers and even like seeing the posters, dude. Have you seen the posters that came out for this movie that were
Yeah,
released with that
dude,
last
they're
trailer? Like
fire.
just the juxtaposition of the Black Panther and the Queen and Shuri, and then you have Namor and his people like right under it. And dude, it looks so cool. And
Yeah.
it's like it
Worthy for sure.
yeah, and then you see like in the trailer itself, I'm sure you go into it, but you see like the Queen, like Angela Bassett's character and Namor, and how like the tension between them, and like it's like you feel it's gonna be all out war. And then you have like M'Baku when he was saying like who Namor is, and like what's gonna happen if we like fight him, like it's gonna cause an eternal war. And it's like, dude, the stakes are so high. And even then, like Wakanda itself still feels like we still have so much to learn about Wakanda, and like
Yep.
how cool it is, and like that world. And then they're just gonna throw a whole nother world at us. And it's just
Exactly.
I think it's just gonna be nuts. And it's gonna be really cool. And I'm actually really excited from like some of the action sequences we saw in this last trailer. Like
Yeah,
you
definitely.
actually saw Namor like flying, like running through the air. I was like, oh, that's so
Yeah.
cool.
Doing
Yeah,
And
that
some
was
Ninja
badass.
Warrior shit. That was so cool.
yeah, man,
The
like it's
little
that.
wings on his the little wings on
Yeah,
his
so
yeah,
cool.
Yep.
So
dude.
cool, man.
Like I'm excited for it. I think it's gonna be it's definitely gonna be like the best movie of this phase of the MCU. And yeah, and my guess is that it's gonna pass Endgame at the box office.
I think so too. Just given
Yeah,
everything
dude,
going into it, all it has going.
this final trailer was awesome, dude. Like Eric said, I'm all about the action, anything else aside from that's a plus to me.
Oh
So
yeah.
just in that little 3 minute, 2.5 minute clip, little trailer, it's like yo, I had me hooked already. Like I already wanted to see it because of Namor, but now it's like okay, I'm getting a little bit more teasers on this, so it's like now I want to see what this whole 3 hour film is gonna be about,
You're right.
So
Yeah,
I'm
3 hours
dude,
that runtime too.
Yeah.
Oh
yeah, that's what I'm
man.
saying. So I'm like, dude, what am I in for? Like I'm excited to see, like, dude, like I know the storyline is gonna be awesome because, like, well, Eric said, we don't know much about Wakanda, and I think this film is gonna give us a little more depth into that, and especially because we've seen in the trailer too, where it wasn't just the Atlantis, well, it's not Atlantis anymore, but Namor's
Uh,
people and all that, their little world.
Talocan, I think it's called.
But we
Talocan.
saw people, I don't know if you caught it, but we saw like a little militia kind of group,
Yep.
gathering together. And I think those are the people that are going to be the ones to stir everything up just because who knows, they're probably trying to get into Wakanda through the water. And then that's why they stir up stuff with, Namor. I don't know. I'm just guessing here now, but
Yeah.
like, dude, I just feel like we're in for a big treat for sure. And I don't need. I'm going in with high expectations, but I wouldn't even be let. I'm telling you right now, I wouldn't even be let down, even if my expectations aren't met. Cause just with the trailers, man. I'm hooked. I'm real. Fucking fish out. They're gonna get a fish out of water, dog. Like I'm all for it, man.
Yeah. And I think the
I'm
thing
with
that
it.
very interested in seeing too is that the history between Wakanda and Namor's civilization. I think Talocan would correct me, forgive me if I'm butchering that wrong or not saying it right. But just given, obviously, we had seen in Endgame when Okoye made that that kind of allusion to Atlantis
Oh, yeah.
or Namor. And also, too, he had said something. Namor in the very beginning of this trailer says something that is very interesting and
Oh,
telling. That only the most broken people can be great leaders. And we had seen
Yeah.
that scene where they're on the beach and he's meeting with Ramonda, and it seems like. So I'm wondering too, like what the history is there, and what if like King T'Chaka and Namor. Obviously, we know that Namor in the comics is very old and he ages a lot slower than humans. So he was around since like the reign of King T'Chaka in the comics. So I'm wondering just like what and the way that Tenoch Huerta, who plays Namor, is describing. He actually describes Namor as not a villain but an anti-hero, and that he's somebody who's who's very caring for his people and is not as violent or as brutal as some of the. And this is what you made. What you said really makes sense too, Ruben. Is that he's not brutal and that he's not even the most antagonistic faction of his people. That I think Atuma in his people are meant to be like the more brutal antagonistic faction of the underwater people. So I'm wondering just all of that when we get those hints and instances with this trailer. I'm just wondering, like, that's the thing I think I'm more excited to is like what the history is there, and was there a peace treaty between these two people and now these two tribes and civilizations, and now that was brokered with the passing of T'Challa and their announcement of opening themselves up to the world. Like, there's just a whole lot that I'm just really excited for and can't wait to really see how that is. The expectations is high. And then, too, we don't
yeah.
exactly know. We got confirmation, obviously, there's going to be another Black Panther and female, but we don't know if it's only going to be Shuri. I have a theory that it's going to be a little bit of a red herring. I think it's going to be like shared between Shuri, Okoye, and Nakia, or at least two of those choices. So I'm wondering what's going on with that. I think Shuri is going to be the Black Panther for the future, but I think they're all going to share in some
Yeah.
capacity.
I hope it's not red herring, because judging on the posters, like,
Well, a little red herring.
yeah, but judging on the posters, you see like you see Namor, and then you see Shuri right above him, like
Yeah.
juxtaposed next to one another. And I think in that the very last instance of that trailer, I think like based on like body type and everything, I think it's Shuri. I think she's the Black Panther in that scene.
That
At least.
one, in that shot, especially like the dots on the painted dots on her forehead. That's also very similar to like what Shuri has worn
When she
in
fights,
the
yeah.
end of Black Panther,
Yep.
end of Black Panther, and then in the ceremony for T'Challa's funeral.
Oh, yep. So yeah,
Interesting stuff.
we'll see. And I was also really excited about Riri Williams. I think we finally got her
I was
in the
about to mention
Ironheart.
that too.
Yeah, yeah, in the Ironheart outfit. And I don't know if you guys caught they had like the very like traditional Iron Man like movie view where like you see from the top down inside of the helmet. They did that with Shuri during the trailer. Like
Yeah.
I thought that was really cool. That was a cool nod. And I think part of
Even
the
just her like building the suit, a lot of those parallels between like her and Iron Man. It was really just cool to see.
yeah, it's really cool. I'm excited for it. I personally I hope they don't spend too much time on her story because she's gonna get her own show anyway. But I hope more of the runtime is given to the actual story at hand, right, between Namor and Wakanda. So, but yeah, nonetheless, I think that was pretty exciting to see.
Yeah. And like I said,
don't know who the villain is gonna be yet, man. I don't think
Yeah.
Namor's the villain in this film.
I think
feel
he's
man,
gonna be the villain for the majority of the film, and there's probably gonna be some like underlying villain in the background that's kind of causing this tension.
Yeah, I want to
between
know
them.
who's the one that's causing that stir up.
Yeah,
Like,
because
it's not.
the whole idea of Namor, even in the comics books, right, he's the protector, right, of his land, and maybe to a certain extent, Wakanda opening up its borders kind of lend itself to putting them in danger. Maybe like that's part of the problem.
That makes sense.
I don't know if this will become like political at any point, like where like the Queen needs to figure that out with the UN and they want their vibranium and stuff like that. I mentioned on a previous podcast, I think there might be someone in the background trying to steal the vibranium from Wakanda and probably leveraging Namor and his people and their like treaties that they had in place to try to cause a war so they can swoop in and steal the vibranium. So
sounds like the king or ruler of a certain fictional country.
Yeah, again.
He has a castle, I think.
Yep.
I think
Again, in the comic books, when Shuri becomes Black Panther, that is essentially what happened. They were trying to Doctor Doom was trying to take the vibranium from Wakanda, and I think what T'Challa did at that point was make all the vibranium somehow useless in Wakanda to just keep it out of Doctor Doom's hands, and by in part he loses his title of Black Panther, and then Shuri takes it. So maybe it's based off that comic book run. It'd be cool to see that too. But I don't want to see Wakanda lose their vibranium. I just think it's such a cool a cool world to explore, and then they go like deep into it. And I hope we see more of it in the future. So I hope that's not the case, but I do think there's someone in the background. There's something they haven't shown in the trailers yet. There's definitely more going on than what they've shown us.
Wolverine is made out of adamantium, or what's that thing
Correct.
called?
Yeah.
Adamantium.
Adamantium. Damn. I don't know. They might introduce that shit soon. Watch.
It's true.
They might introduce that shit soon too. Well, it's not gonna be vibranium. It's gonna be the
new
Wolverine thing, X-23 and all that.
Definitely. Speaking
You
of
heard
final,
it here first, y'all. You heard it first.
You heard it here first.
Speaking of final trailers, we saw a final trailer for Black Adam recently too. We saw a bit more action from all members of the Justice Society of America. Amanda Waller sending the JSA after Black Adam, and confirmation that Sabak is the main antagonist, who is similar to Black Adam, but he gets his powers from 6 demons instead of Egyptian deities. Obviously, Shazam gets his powers from Greek deities. And with this movie coming out in just 2 weeks, does it give you any renewed / reinforced faith that the power of hierarchy in the DC universe is about to change?
That quote just keeps coming back around, huh?
I love it. I'm sorry. I just love it.
Dude, the hierarchy changed already when what's his name didn't show up as Superman at Comic-Con. That was already it's just gonna be Black Adam's world. Yeah, Henry Cavill when he didn't show up.
But just in general, does it give you a renewed faith that you think this movie will be good, or that it's building up that anticipation for you guys? Like, how do you guys feel what do you guys think about this movie overall?
I'm not highly anticipating it. I'm gonna go watch it. I think it's gonna be fun. I mean, I'm comparing it to like Shazam, right? I mean, and that's kind of the most accurate comparison given the relationship between the two characters in the comic books. And I really liked Shazam. I thought it was a really cool movie. I liked the story. I've watched it with my kids. And I think it'll be really interesting to see The Rock play Black Adam. He did great as at Comic-Con when he came out in the suit, and obviously he's really into the character. Like, I don't know if you saw his posts, but when he was filming the Black Adam, he wouldn't sit on the throne until his character had gone through the process of earning that throne. And so he's like taking it very seriously, almost from like, obviously he's an athlete, so he's taking it from that perspective too. And I think him taking it seriously and really trying to do the best he can with this character, and having read, like, he also shows pictures of just the comic books that he's read, and he's obviously diving deep into the character, which is all I could really ask for, right? Like, especially a character like Black Adam that's so, like, again, anti-hero. I mean, usually a villain, but nonetheless, I think it's really cool to see that play out on screen. So I'm excited for it. I think it's gonna be fun. I'm not, like, it's not highly anticipated for me like some other DC movies have been in the past. But at the same time, it's like, I think it's gonna be a solid action movie. Yeah, I mean, it's The Rock, man. He does action movies. That's what he does.
What about you, Ruben?
No, yeah, like, I feel like I think it's gonna be a good film. I know it, what they call the little pre-screenings and all that, they haven't gotten good feedback. I've heard a lot of bad backlash.
I know they just did the debut in Mexico, huh?
Yeah, so I'm like, damn, like, I think it's just because people don't really know the character as well too. They're just used to seeing, like, the main heads, like Batman, Superman, and DC that's all they've been doing. Well, Henry Cavill, much props to Henry Cavill, because he's like the solid Superman that we've had. But like when it comes to Batman and all that, and every other, and Wonder Woman too, But like when it comes to Batman films, like DC, I'm always on DC. Like DC doing too many retakes, new origin stories on the same character too many times, and I like, man, so it's something new. So I feel like a lot of people that don't know the character I feel like that's why they probably gave it that bad
Mm,
feedback, But
yeah, I
as
mean,
a
there's all these like
reader collector and all that, I'm like,
yeah,
I'm all for it. And it's The Rock, so it's like, dude, like The Rock, like you said, Eric, when it's The Rock, when he puts his mind on something, he's gonna go all in. Like he doesn't half-ass it, like he's all in it. He's gonna freaking if he sets his mind on something, he's gonna go all in. And that's what I like about The
yeah,
Rock, to be honest.
yeah,
Like, and then I obviously he's the one that said, the quote that freaking Nick said, the change of hierarchy
yeah,
and all that. I was like, damn, I'm gonna hold him on that. So I ain't gonna lie, like you don't say that unless you really feel
yeah,
it. But that's the confidence he has in himself. So
yep.
I'm all for it. And
He's
not
in
only
character.
that, yeah, dude. I even in the Shazam movie when they were talking about how our old the chosen one, right? The previous chosen one before they gave it to Billy, right?
Yep, Billy.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Billy
yeah.
Madison.
Before they gave it to Billy, I don't know when he's like, yeah, our old chosen one. We chose him, and I don't know on the little animation that they show, it kind of looked like the Black Adam where he had a big ass lightning bolt, like
That
down
was
his
meant to be
chest,
Black Adam. This is meant to be
yeah,
Black
so I
Adam.
was like, dude, like that was already hinting on that. So I was like, I'm all for it. But like Eric said, it's like you gotta kind of compare it to Shazam,
Yeah,
because Shazam is still gonna be in the DC universe moving forward. I'm calling it. That's what I think at least.
yeah.
And then yeah, I'm with
Yeah.
it. I'm with it. I'm all
I
for it.
I think part of the bad reviews might even come from just expectations that people have had themselves on superhero content lately. Like I mean, we've talked about She-Hulk. We'll talk about it a little more today, but it's just like people are just expecting more, and they're like, "Where are the other superheroes? Where's
Well,
our
Multiverse of
nostalgia?"
Madness was a prime example too, honestly.
Yeah, exactly. And then people are like they have their expectations and they're like, we want to see this, we want to see that. And with Black Adam, you can't really have expectations as a character we've never seen before. Right? So you have to
Yep.
take the
People, yeah,
story as is and really play off that. And who knows, like maybe people were expecting cameos. They see DC and they expect cameos. Like I think the only cameo I might be expecting in this movie is Shazam, maybe at the near the end, right? But
Hmm.
I mean, just seeing the Justice Society in there, like that's gonna be pretty cool, right?
yeah.
And I'm excited for that, to be honest. But I don't know, man. Like I'm just expecting a pure like action movie. Shazam didn't get the greatest reviews either when it first came out, right?
I mean, it got like slightly
Decent.
better than average
Yeah, yeah,
reviews.
but I again, and it's one of the DC movies that I've like rewatched the
Very
most,
enjoyable,
just because
especially
it
with
was
kids. When
I
you
just
have
actually
kids,
just
that's
watched
something
it
that
entertaining.
the
you
other day.
you can't
I
show them
watched it the
Batman
other
versus
day.
Superman, but you can show them Shazam, obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was
So
watching Logan this morning too, so I think that's pretty funny that we're actually talking about
yeah,
this,
so
man.
it's just like the entertainment factor of it. I think that's all I really want to see from this, and I've mentioned that with She-Hulk too. Like I'm just watching this to be entertained at this point. I'm not expecting this crazy DC movie like that what we've gotten in the past, like we did with like Snyder Cut or like with Suicide Squad. I'm not expecting all that. I'm just expecting a solid action movie to have fun
Yeah,
with, right? Like
Exactly.
like on the opposite end, right? We saw the Batman come out earlier this year, right? I had expectations for that, and I'm like, this is a Batman movie. I want to see like a good, solid Batman movie, just because we've had so many good ones in the past, and they were able to deliver that, fortunately. But with this one, I'm not gonna have those expectations. I'm expecting a funny action movie like The Rock is used to doing. Like think of The Rock's like cinematography, like the last like even 10 years. It's all like action films, and
Comedy.
the
I mean,
majority of them are
action
comedies. Like
Him
sprinkled
and
in with
Kevin
comedy
Hart.
too.
yeah. So that's kind of what I'm expecting going into this one.
Yeah. And for me, because this was actually the comic book film I was most looking forward to when back in 2014 when it was officially announced that he was going to be Black Adam, and knowing that he had been attached to this
In
project since like
2014, huh?
2010. I think
Yeah.
with that all that in mind, just because this is something I've been waiting like 10 years to see when I first heard about it. And that was around the time I started getting into it all, and especially like Black Adam, Shazam. I was really becoming in tune with all of that. And even though he wasn't that A-lister, it was like once that point of like when Fast 5 came out and he became an A-lister, I was like, okay, this is for sure going to happen sometime in the future because The Rock is a big brand now with this like with something like Ryan Reynolds or like Margot Robbie, where they're their own brands essentially, and they're as much known for their characters and extremely passionate about it. And this is exactly why I was most looking forward to it, just because The Rock's passion and enthusiasm and pushing himself, even though he was approaching his 50s during filming, that you could still see like that man really put in a lot of time, effort to give us the most authentic version of Black Adam possible. But after the passing of Chadwick Boseman with Wakanda Forever, and we didn't know it was going to come out around the same time. And then once the release date got released, and then we had come to find out that they're only going to be released a couple weeks apart. That took all of my anticipation and enthusiasm just because of all the stakes and all that it had going for it. And that was going to be what I was most looking forward to. I'm still excited for Black Adam, but aside from my expectations, like I expect to see a very good movie. Maybe, but it doesn't really have something that's gonna hint at the future. Maybe we'll see a little bit of a nod to Shazam, maybe Superman, because that's the thing that The Rock has been pushing was like a confrontation with Superman. Aside from that, I'm expecting to see a pretty awesome movie, and it's also cool we're gonna get to see the Justice Society of America and all the costumes, all the designs of all the characters look awesome. I mean, Aldous Hodge, that dude is the leader, and you can't tell me any different. That is Hawkman, not the CW version. Like that dude is Hawk. Like when you see the CW version is like the dude that they tell you not to worry about. The version of him in Black Adam is like the dude that they tell you not to worry about, and then you're Hawkman from the CW. So it's like there's night and day difference. Not only that, but then we get to see the Nth Metal, and then we see just how powerful and how dynamic it can be, which is like in the comics, and we see that. So not only that, but then we got freaking Pierce Brosnan, who us 90 kids saw as James Bond. So I'm just seeing like how picture perfect he looks, and he just looks like he's ripped off of the comic book. There's a lot I'm excited for, but more of just seeing, and it's cool you had brought that up because there's times where the expectation is too high. Like we're expecting this dynamic movie that's going to change everything. That's going to change how we see superhero films, or is going to add some kind of element that reworks the entire genre, or that pushes it into like this new tier or this new thing. And that's not what I'm expecting with this movie. I just want to see an entertaining movie that is gonna do justice. Kind of funny. Do justice to Black Adam and the Justice Society, and just have it be its own story that's not going to be really connected to any element that we've seen in DC aside from Amanda Waller's connection to sending out the Justice Society. So, like I said, with that, like I'm excited for it, but I've been knowing too they have The Rock attached to this project. He's going to be this character at least like the next 10 years. So I think that's the thing. I'm like, I can kind of go any way, but aside from him meeting up with Shazam, finally having a competition with Shazam and Superman, I don't exactly know what you can do with this character. So I think people just need to enjoy it for what it is and not be expecting anything that's gonna break boundaries.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
I hear you on that.
That comes out in 2 weeks. We will give our review. I just got my Black Adam shirt shipped from Amazon, so can't wait to rock that too. Like I said, I'm always going to be having to add to my collection. So anybody thinking about passing me up, there's a couple $1 million you got to go through. So,
No.
so
I'm gonna
being
show up
that-
to the theater with the WWE belt or something.
I thought you were
belt.
going to come like maybe shirtless, but with
I'm here for the
the
Rock.
lightning bolt painted on. I thought you were going to come like shirtless, just have a
Shirtless?
lightning bolt painted
Nah,
on you.
man.
We have some interesting news too. So Bassem Tarek has stepped down as the director of the Blade reboot, which is gearing up to shoot in November and is likely going to be pushed back from the November 3rd, 2023 release date. Especially since Bo DeMaio, after impressing Feige with writing on Moon Knight and X-Men 97, Moon Knight the show, not Moon Knight a comic run, has been hired to rewrite the script from scratch. This comes after reports of Blade star Mahershala Ali being unhappy with the multiple rewrites. Are you guys confident that we'll get the best introduction for a heavily anticipated character as Blade possible? Or are these reports concerning, especially since this project has been pushed. This will be like the third time this project has got pushed back. What do you guys make of it?
I think it's the opposite of concerning. I think
Hmm.
it shows that the studio is able to see something and realize that this isn't what we want, and that we're okay with pushing something back to give the audience the best, uh, just the best product possible.
Yeah,
Seeing the writer from Moon Knight, I loved Moon Knight. I think they did really well. I think it did a really cool job of that like psychological thriller. And I think bringing some of those elements into a Blade script is perfect and would actually work well. I know some of the problems that were mentioned with the original script is that I only had 2 fight scenes and it was lackluster.
exactly. This
And
is Blade.
yeah, like you need to have some pretty dope fight scenes in there. And the fact that they said like they're gonna change that up. And Moon Knight had some really good scenes, right? Like some pretty good fight scenes that I really enjoyed, or at least some action scenes. So hopefully they'll be able to fix some of that. Um, so yeah, I think the fact that they're taking also into consideration Mahershala Ali's feelings towards the script and what he was unhappy with it. Like, hey, okay, let's seriously take into consideration what you're saying, because this is in essence your character. You're playing this character. Let's rewrite the script. Let's do something different. And
Hmm.
and you know with these movies like the way that they plan out a lot of these things is they have obviously where they want something to start and they know where they want their movie to finish. It's up to the screenwriter to really fill in the in between, right?
Yeah.
Because that's the only way to really build this universe to go from one story to another. You see it in comic books all the time. I'm rereading right now with my son the Indestructible Hulk, and you'll see like random little like one page that you can kind of feel like this isn't supposed to be here, but they put it in here because it's introducing something that's going to happen in another comic book, right? Like we see
Yep.
that in the comic books all the time. So I feel like with
Exposition.
the with these shows they're able and movies they're able to do that too, where they already have this whole timeline set out and like okay, these are the main points that we want Blade to touch on, but everything else you can fill in the blanks.
Yeah.
And I think just getting the right creative team together and not just a writer and director, but writer, director, and actor, and having the actors input is going to be really important. So yeah, so I'm not worried about this at all. I don't care. They push it back as far as they need to get the best possible product out there for us. Like that's fine. Like I have no idea where it was going anyway, so I haven't really lost anything, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so
I
I'm
think
okay with it.
the only thing that was interesting to me is, granted, Mahershala Ali is a great actor. I love that
Yes.
since I've first seen him. I've always liked him as an actor, and the minute I heard that he was gonna be taking over the role as Blade, I was like, okay, this is a perfect. Like, I would have loved to have seen Wesley Snipes, as given that he was pushing 60 at that time. There was and the window of opportunity to do that had passed. Unfortunately, I was like, okay, this is a perfect actor to take over. But I also was a little bit surprised because I thought they would have had gotten an actor at least like at his latest, like in his mid to late 30s, because right
Mhm.
now he's approaching 50. I think in like 2 years he's going to be 50. So the thing about pushing it back, especially with the role as physically demanding, I mean, yeah, granted now we really a lot of these actors are in phenomenal shape. I mean, we've even seen Harrison Ford coming back for a last hoorah as Indiana Jones. So it's not something that's going to be completely out of the realm of possibility. And he's in fantastic shape. And as long as he keeps himself in great shape continuously throughout this time as Blade, that's not going to be an issue. And granted, like, stunt doubles and a lot of that, but I thought it was a little bit of an interesting choice in that aspect. And so now that they're going to push it back, they're probably going to be pushing this back at least minimum to like mid late 2024. I'm going to say about mid to late 2024. So I think with me, it's not concerning. Like I said, a lot of those points is what I agreed with, because I'm thinking more on that aspect about them giving the best product possible. I'm just being that disappointed fan. Like, I just want to see this. This is like one of my top Marvel characters. One of those characters that, especially us '90s kids, that we definitely like to see, and was something that we grew up with. Like,
Mhm.
I would always talk to my boys about Blade. Like, nobody knew Marvel. We didn't, aside from like Wolverine, Spider-Man, and the Hulk, but
Yeah.
we all knew Blade too. And we didn't
Yep.
even have any understanding of him being a Marvel character. So this is something that's a point of contention and something that we want to see this best version of him possible. And I just want, so I'm just more disappointed in that sense that I wanted to get it as quick as possible, but if it's gonna be uh not as good as it could have been, or if it's gonna be mediocre, then just it's okay to take your time and push it back, especially if it's only gonna have like 2 action sequences. This is Blade.
Yeah.
Granted, I mean, obviously, we're not going to say, "Oh, we need to see an action sequence every time," but the level of
Yes, we do.
action with this character is like on par with Shang-Chi. So
Yes.
I really want to. I'm hoping we get more action and we get more of that high quality version of this character. What about you, Ruben? What do you think?
Yeah, you guys made some really good points, and I agree with you both. Like I don't mind them pushing it back as long as they're just perfecting it to the best, way they can, and especially when it comes to storylines and things like that, how they're gonna make it fit in the MCU. So I'm all for it. I'm all for it. We do hate those setbacks, where they, postpone the freaking drop or the premiere, but it's okay. It happens, everything is art. You know what I'm saying? So sometimes when you want, especially when you're trying to make money off of it, like you want to make sure it's a good hit. Especially when it comes to the MCU, I don't want to see no kind of DC kind of shit, where like it's gonna have to be redone or something like that. The only thing I do dislike is just like how it's gonna mess around with the MCU timeline now, because there's times where like people know there's a release date, right?
Mm.
So then screenwriters, if they know there's gonna play a factor down the line where it's all gonna connect, I think that's the only thing I dislike because sometimes it is like if you're trying to freaking make everything align together and then something comes up and you postpone it, so then I think that's why sometimes other movies or other shows get delayed, because they're like, oh damn, okay, well we thought this movie was gonna come out this time. So you know what? Maybe we could hint at aligning it some way somehow. But that's a sense is the way that's the way the MCU is moving forward. Like Eric was saying in the comics, there's always gonna be some sort of page or hint or something where like it's there's gonna be a deeper meaning to it down the line. And I feel like that's the only thing I dislike. But for the most part, I'm all for it. I want to see a good Blade movie. The Wesley Snipes movies was nothing but action, so I was like, I want to see some sweet action films for sure. Action scenes for sure,
Yeah.
Yeah,
So I'm with that.
definitely can't wait. We'll see. We're at least like minimum 2 years, possibly even longer from seeing Blade in the MCU, but he will be here very, very
Yeah,
shortly,
but the
and we're
MCU's doing it
heavily
right, so we
anticipating
got
it.
some stuff in between until then, so it's all
Yeah,
good. It's all
Yeah.
good.
yeah. We got Werewolf by Night coming, so that's like another thing where
Oh,
we're
yeah.
going to be hinting at the Midnight Suns. So that's the thing I'm really looking forward to above all else
Yeah.
is hopefully we get to see them and Ghost Rider interacting with Blade, interacting with Moon Knight and Werewolf by Night.
Black Knight.
Hopefully Doctor Strange, it'll be like the comics where Doctor Strange brings them together. That would be a cool little thing to have all these
It'd be fun.
paranormal, supernatural creatures coexisting against all together in this world. So be cool stuff to see. And lastly, before we get on to talking about She-Hulk, we have another casting, well, not a casting update, but a character who's going to be reprising their role. Keanu Reeves is back as Constantine. He will be reprising his role in a sequel coming soon. I was hoping to see Matt Ryan from the Arrowverse come back as a character, as he is just perfect casting for the interesting, conniving, morally ambiguous person that Constantine is. Plus, Keanu's version came out at a time when the source material wasn't as respected or taken into as much consideration. And
Yeah.
you guys, are you excited to see Keanu back as Constantine again?
I like that old movie.
I do like the movie.
It was
Yeah.
okay. It was okay. I
It's-
don't really remember it fondly.
So I actually read. I read Constantine comics after having watched that movie. So I didn't have like an idea of who John Constantine was.
Yeah.
Now having a better idea of who of John Constantine, I can see why it might have been problematic. It's not really
Exactly.
true to the source material, but the
Yeah.
movie in itself was fun. I like Keanu Reeves. I
And then hopefully we'll get
can't
to
do
see
wrong.
Peter Stormare back as the devil because he was definitely one of the best
Yeah.
things in that movie for sure.
I thought it was a cool movie. I I like the like supernatural movies and comic books, and I always think it's super fun to see. And so I'm excited for it. Uh, yeah, I think that's. I mean, we did get most recently a different version of Constantine that I actually like more than
Yeah.
Keanu Reeves. For those of you that haven't seen Sandman yet, there's the female Constantine in there, Joanna
Yep.
Constantine, and I think she killed it, dude. And she's actually closer to like Matt Ryan's take on Constantine,
Yeah.
where
Yeah.
she's more of a badass and she's like in your face and like she doesn't care, like she's out there doing her thing. And in that show, well, we'll talk about the show in a bit, but the it just goes really deep into like her history too in a couple episodes, and I thought seeing that version of Constantine was awesome. But also it's because Neil Gaiman was helping write that script. So
Yep.
when you have the original writer, I mean, it's gonna help, right?
For
Definitely.
sure, without a
So
doubt.
and I don't know, people are there's a lot of fanboys that just expect to see the same people come back and reprise the roles, and maybe they were hoping this somehow ties into the DC universe and all that stuff. But it's just gonna be its own thing. It's its own sequel. It's gonna happen how it wants to happen, and I'm okay with
Yeah.
that.
And I knew that this was probably going to happen because it's been in the media that Keanu had said he would be open to reprising his role as Constantine. And given that he's had a renaissance within the past 10 years ever since the first John Wick, as
Oh
it
yeah,
started gaining more ground and more traction and it was out there, and obviously we had talked about seeing all these other actors from their respected film universes reprise their roles with the concept of the multiverse. I'm like, okay, we're given that it's out there and he's a box office draw again and he's a star again, we're probably going to see him reprise his role at some point. It's just like I said, I don't remember. And me being a '90s kid, and Neo was one of my first cinematic heroes that I ever looked up to, especially because he could do martial arts and he could do kung fu. Like Neo was cool.
yeah.
Neo was awesome. So I definitely had a fondness for Keanu Reeves in any role that he had done. It's just Constantine, when it came out, I had no understanding or concept of who the character was, or I didn't really even care that he was a DC Comics character. But then getting into the source material, and then once I'd seen Matt Ryan's version, which is just so perfect and just so faithful to the character, not only in that sense of being a faithful, but just being a great character in his own right within what he had done. Like probably the best actor and character within the whole Arrowverse, in my opinion. I just wanted to see that version of the kid, knowing that he was somebody who was also interested in reprising his role, and he even reprised his role in speaking roles for Constantine in the
Mhm.
DC that shared cinematic, the shared animated universe that started with Justice League War up until Dark War, Dark Apocalypse. That so I was hoping we would have seen him just because that is what I think of Constantine in a cinematic version. Like that's who I think of. So I'm still excited to see it because it'll, and especially just because Keanu has been reprising a lot of roles. Like he did Neo again recently in the Matrix Resurrection. So I'm like, this now we're touching upon this and that he wants to reprise this role. We're probably going to see it at some point. But I just was hoping, as excited as I am for it, like I said, it's a movie that came out at a time when there wasn't that fondness or that respect and affinity for the source material. And I'm wondering, like, it's going to be unique in that aspect because it's going to be the only film from its period that's going to get a direct sequel. So I'm more curious to see like how that's all going to play out and what they're going to do, if they're going to take a new direction with it, if they're going to try to make it a little bit more faithful to the comics, or if they're just going to be like, hey, this isn't something, we're going to do whatever we want. So I'm more interested and curiosity peaked about that.
Yeah, that makes sense.
What about you, Ruben?
Yeah, no, I feel you on that, but I like Keanu. He's like one of my favorite actors for sure. Like I've
Oh yeah, for
always
sure.
liked
Yeah.
him since when he was playing that undercover cop, Surf
Point Break.
Boy with Point
Point Break.
Break, and then Shane Falco, you know, Neo, freaking. So like he has
Bill
a
and
lot of
Ted.
good movies, and then yeah, once he made John Wick, it was like, damn, that put him on top of the line. So I was like, dude, like
Yeah,
he's a
Like hey, he's
bad
back.
dude. He's a bad, like Stephen A. Smith says about Aaron Rodgers. Oh, he's a bad man. Like John Wick, he's awesome, dude. Like John Wick, Keanu Reeves is
Keanu
awesome,
Reeves.
dude.
Yeah,
He's awesome, and I feel like yeah, dude, he's gonna. I think they are. I don't think they're gonna. It's gonna be a sequel, but I don't think, like we said, the old material that's in the past. You know, I feel like like you said, it's already like a couple years, decade later, and all that. You know, so they're gonna be up. I feel that's what I'm hoping for. And Keanu's a smart man. You know, he's not gonna. He's like another Rock. You know, he's not gonna put his name attached to something if he doesn't feel like there's potential in it. You know what I'm saying? So
That's
I
true.
feel like with this, he's gonna for sure read. They're all gonna read the comic. He's gonna read the comic. I feel like he's gonna be more faithful to the comics. That's what I'm hoping for as a fan. But yeah, Keanu's a smart man. Marvel's smart. So like you said, that old film I saw when we saw growing up, it's in the past. It's in the past. So they might continue his story from there, but I feel like it's just gonna be more up to date, more to the comics, more faithful to the comics. That's what I'm hoping as a fan. But I'm all for it. I'm all for it. I don't know, like you said, I don't know about excitement, but I want to see where it's gonna go. And
Yeah.
obviously, like I said, the MCU, they're not making anything just to make it
Oh, it's
like a
DC.
one-off, like She-Hulk, right? They're
Yeah,
saying it might be just a little one-off kind of thing, but it's like it has her. She has her cameos, and it's playing a deeper. The show itself is has a deeper meaning to the MCU in itself.
Hmm.
So I feel like
yeah,
Constantine might play a role in that.
yeah. I guess we'll see what happens and what direction they're going to take and how that's going to all be. But obviously, you'll hear about it firsthand. So moving on from that, we have our getting into the last two episodes of She-Hulk, episode 6 and 7. Sorry, we've been a little slow to get these episodes out and review it. Just things have been a little crazy with all of us, but appreciate your guys' patience with us. But I'm gonna actually just give my take a little first because I've actually really liked these last two episodes, more so the last episode when we had that scene where she's giving her speech on not feeling good enough as Jen, that everybody likes She-Hulk, and she finally had found a guy who liked Jen. But also, too, she even admitted to herself, like, well, who wouldn't like Jen? Jen is awesome. So we see her having that maturity that she knows that she's good enough and that she is valuable. And just to hear her say it out loud, but also just being hurt because this person actually liked Jen and she had this belief that this was something that she could build with this person, but yet he just ghosted her and how hurt she was by it. I think that's just something we could all relate to, like where we just had those feelings of like, damn, aren't we good enough, or isn't our value enough? And I think it's just the writing is starting to get better for me because that was something that we had seen. I talked about like those hints and those instances where we had saw that kind of dichotomy where there was like the whole her reconciling the Jen versus She-Hulk personas, and now we got that coming full circle. Well, kind of, no pun intended, full circle. But I just thought that it was really smart to do that and just to have it just be with that awareness to it, because that's a big thing like in the comics where she doesn't feel like she would rather be a She-Hulk because a lot of times people don't feel Jen is as cool or is as awesome as She-Hulk, so she'd rather stay as She-Hulk. So I just like that aspect and just the simplicity of it, the setup of it, how just normal it felt in that sense, and a lot of it was just a lot of relatability. So I think there was just a lot of smartness with it, and a lot that I appreciated that this is just a story, even though it's not something that we could fully relate to, because obviously, like, we're not women who work in a corporate workforce and having to deal with a lot of those issues. Like, yeah, I know you had talked about that a lot. Like, your wife had said, like, oh, this is pretty faithful to that, Eric.
Hmm.
So, but this is something that I feel like is relatable to a lot of people and something to where I was like, okay, this show is doing something smart and is actually trying to do something a little bit different and have this new perspective that we haven't seen before. I also like one of the things that really made me laugh in that scene is if you notice in the that sign on the back, instead of namaste, it said Obamaste. Like I saw that and I paused and I literally laughed for like a couple minutes because of just how
It's
funny it
clever.
was to me. Well, what did you guys make of these last two episodes?
I just want to point out that I called it that Daredevil was not going to come out yet. I really feel like
Yeah.
I
they're
was
saving
hoping.
him.
I was hoping.
There's so many people that are watching She-Hulk just because they showed Daredevil in the trailer. I feel like they shouldn't have done that. And so many people are disappointed because they just haven't seen him yet. They haven't seen.
Expectations. Are
Yeah.
you talking about the whole thing? Expectations seem to be the thing. We should call this Episode expectations.
Expectations. Yeah, it sucks, but because I wasn't expecting him to show up, I actually enjoyed these last episodes. I think it's really interesting how there's obviously an overarching story, right? Especially like at the end of the last episode where you see they're like trying to take her blood and stuff and their samples and there's someone's doing something, right? Um, but a lot of people have also complained that there's no like bad guy that she's like directly fighting against. A lot of people thought it was going to be Titania for a while and it wasn't her. Obviously they have a rivalry, which is also faithful to the comics. But I mean, the real theme of this show is like her being comfortable in her own skin, and I
Exactly.
think that's what's important here. I think people are forgetting it's supposed to be funny. It's supposed to be a sitcom, and I think this last episode, especially seeing the other like villains and them like in the circle talking about their feelings and stuff. I legit this is the episode where I laughed the most, just because
Yeah,
I
same,
thought
same.
I thought it was so funny and it was just like something just chill to watch at the end of the day and just enjoy that there's this diverse expansive universe that the MCU has created where you can have those moments of like it's not a stressful moment, sure. Blonsky's right there and he can turn into Abomination at any point, but it's not like a tense moment, right? Like everyone's just having fun and you actually enjoy their dialogue
Yeah.
and like how funny it is. Like when they got what's the name Porcupine to remove the mask and everyone was just like,
Oh,
"Oh, it smells so bad. Put it back on." Like that was really funny and I thought it's just yes, it's childish at times, but I enjoy that childish humor once in a while. It's
Yeah.
just for entertainment value. That's all it really is for
Yeah.
and I like
And
that.
and I think because that was like the same thing that I've had a conversation with a coworker about, where he had said the minute I took it as not something that's going to continue with the theme of like the multiverse and continue with this overarching theme. Like I enjoyed it that it's a story that takes place in the MCU, and like not every story that they tell is going to contribute to that. That there's going to be real people and visceral people, and their stories are going to be relatable and unique in that sense. Also, that I really that's more what I started appreciating it for, because I'm like, okay, not everything it has to be this super groundbreaking, super dynamic thing. It could
Yeah.
just be something to just telling this story that exists within the larger MCU. Like, yeah, you had Thanos and then you have Kang, and then the multiverse is a big thing now, but this is just a simple story. Like, these are the lives and the people that take place within it.
Yep.
That they're just normal people. Well, not normal, but normal in that sense of we don't see them doing otherworldly things or crazy things.
Yeah. And how obvious can they be? Like so many times Jen herself keeps saying, "I'm not a superhero, I'm a lawyer." Like she keeps
yeah.
repeating that and I feel like
Yeah,
at this point she's saying it to the audience. She's not even saying it to the people like around her, right? It's like,
yeah,
guys,
For
like this
real.
isn't a superhero show.
yeah,
Like
exactly.
so hint hint.
Well,
But
what do you? Oh, sorry, keep going.
yeah, it's fine.
Well, what do you think, Ruben? Are you feeling those same sentiments that you're appreciating the show for what it is now?
Yeah, exactly. Like Eric said, people had expectations just because of the whole Daredevil thing and all, showing in the trailer. For me, like once we started talking about it more, and I was like, oh well, this episode didn't have this episode didn't have that. I let go of all that already. Like I let go of all that. So I'm just enjoying the show now, just killing time, enjoying it for what it is.
Yeah.
It's just a lawyer show,
Yeah.
her doing what she has to do, taking care, and that's all it is. They're just showing it, like you said, these past two episodes were just about Jen being Jen and how her daily life is going and what it is to be a lawyer. Like the only reason why she goes to go see the Abomination, is because he's on freaking parole. He's on parole and like his
hmm
freaking ankle tracer freaking was. I want to say it was tampered with, but I don't know. It was
It had
probably
to have been
tampered
that
with,
whole
but
story about
I
saving
want,
his chicken
or
at
maybe he
at the
wanted Jen to
electrical
come
fence.
by.
Like,
Like he knew Jen would check in on her. Like maybe he just wanted the company, like besides the people he's in with his group. But I don't know. I thought it was pretty cool. Like you guys are saying, you guys were spot on. Where you're saying it's all about these episodes were all about Jen herself. Like
yeah,
not about being the She-Hulk or anything like that. Like And like
Good.
you said about that guy, like, dang, I knew he was sketchy from the beginning. Like, oh yeah, no, I like Jen. I was like, oh, you're just saying that because you know you can't take her blood when she's in She-Hulk form. You know what I'm saying? So I that's how I felt when he first said that. Like, no, I like Jen. Like I think Jen is awesome or whatever. You know, like, oh, no, it's too sketchy. Like, I don't know.
Yeah,
And then, cause that's the first thing I thought when when he was trying to be nice to her at the wedding and all that. And so yeah, I'm all for it. I'm just enjoying the show now. I was
yeah,
laughing. I'm laughing my ass off. I was
yeah.
laughing my ass off on this last episode, and I'm still looking forward. Like I said, I'm just going with what it is now. I don't have any more expectations, but just knowing what's gonna happen still has me like, ooh, I can't wait for that moment. So it's
Exactly.
good. I like it. I'm enjoying the show at all. Like I said, it's gonna be one of those shows where it's gonna have deeper meaning down the line. Like whether it's gonna be introducing new characters, which we've already seen a couple cameos, or trust me, well, we already know we're gonna see Daredevil and he's already gonna come out down the line. But I feel like there's gonna be another little surprise that none of us are expecting. And
Yeah,
if not,
definitely.
it's okay because we already know we're getting Daredevil.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's
And it,
I think Marvel actually just teased a scene for Daredevil showing up in the Hulk today. I don't know if you guys saw that, but pretty
for
much,
Daredevil, She-Hulk,
I
or you
haven't
mean
seen
and
it.
yeah, Daredevil and She-Hulk.
Oh,
They teased the scene where he fights her.
they,
So I think the next episode, I think we're actually finally gonna get Daredevil,
because
unless
I
they're just
think
messing
they
with us again.
well, I know
Ah,
they
damn,
showed
dude.
they showed an extended scene of that at D23 about them, and they have great chemistry too, so that's awesome to see. But they talk about like the difference between a goon and a thug and the legal terminology, and they talked
Uh,
about like a fight scene. So seems like I think the thing I'm more excited for is just seeing that dynamic that they have between them. But
yeah,
granted, I mean, I don't think that they should have revealed that Daredevil is going to be in the show from the very beginning. I think it would have worked better as a surprise, but obviously they know that people weren't going to have any expectations, so they were afraid of low ratings. So they say, "Oh, Daredevil's going to be in the trailer," and everybody's watching on a week-to-week basis to see if he shows up.
yeah,
I just think it would have been better to say that. Like, how cool would that have been? We're all here speculating, like, "Yeah, Daredevil's going to appear." Wait, he's not going to appear. No, yes, he is. Yeah, we
right,
know he is, and I think that would have just been better, honestly, and had that final reveal in the actual episode.
yeah.
And it's pretty cool too. We had talked about the leader coming to the MCU, well, coming back now, but that site, that website is called Intelligentsia,
Yeah.
and obviously that was something that we had said that I was speculating that there was probably going to be building up to because there's speculation that MODOK is going to be coming in Ant-Man and Wasp: Quantumania. So we knew that they're probably going to be hinting at that. But so with that in mind, do you guys think the leader could be the Hulk King?
It could be because I mean he essentially got his powers in the MCU from the Hulk, and he probably just wants
Yeah.
to expand on that. He'd be smart enough to figure that out too.
Exactly.
Figure out how to extract it from She-Hulk. I think that'd be really cool and an
Yeah.
interesting way to, I guess, tie back to the Hulk again. And if they bring in the leader in this way, it'd be pretty cool. Even if they bring in MODOK in this way, I think it'd be interesting to see.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah.
I think that might be kind of the surprise that Ruben was alluding to. Like the surprise is gonna be who is this villain in the background trying to
Yep.
get the Hulk's powers.
Exactly.
Yeah, but yeah,
A
it'd
lot
be
of
really cool. It makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. But yeah, I think I appreciate is just the last couple episodes have been more of a character study, and I really just wanted to see more of that dynamic between Jen and She-Hulk. So the show is actually hitting on all cylinders for me, and I'm just excited to see how it wraps up and see how Daredevil comes into play with this show and how he gets introduced and that dynamic between her and Daredevil. It's gonna just be really cool to see, especially since we're gonna see him in that classic yellow and red suit,
Yep.
which is gonna
Yep.
be more harkening back and be a little bit of more of an allusion to the light-hearted approach that they're going to be taking with this version of Daredevil. So that's going to be cool, a cool little nod too that I thought was very, very smart for them to do. But make sure you guys check out She-Hulk on Disney Plus. It's got 2 episodes remaining,
Yep.
released every Thursday at midnight. So we're going to be reporting on the last 2 episodes coming in the next 2 weeks. We have Black Adam coming in 2 weeks, and then Werewolf by Night.
Friday.
Actually,
this
oh
week.
shit, Werewolf by Night is
This week.
tomorrow. Well,
Yeah.
today's October 5th, so it's going to be, I think, tonight at midnight. So I can actually watch it tomorrow. I'm off tomorrow, so
snap.
that's probably going to be coming within the next couple of days because I'm super excited and I can't wait to see that, and hopefully we'll see like what's going to go on with that, and if any of our theories were correct about that.
Yep.
So
Yep.
that's going to
it.
be coming soon. We got Moon. The next episode will be the review of the War by Night Halloween special, and then the next She-Hulk episode also. So thank you guys so much for joining us. Make sure to like, subscribe this page. Make sure to follow us on Instagram at Heroes and Mutants. Oh, before we go too, I had said that we were going to be doing a review and giveaway for The Last Ronin. We're probably going to have to push that back to November. We'll let you guys know, but we're going to be a little bit busy right now, so we'll push that back to November, possibly December. So just wait for updates on that, but we promise that is going to be coming very soon. So thank you guys so much for joining us, and you guys have a great day.
See ya.